What's up, everybody? Welcome. House Divided. Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. We're ready to talk some Texas football and entertain you with some random hot takes on movies. I've got a buy or sell question for you, Chad, that I haven't entered into the system, but I know what it is.
Oh,
it's scorching hot. So
scorching hot movies.
But then I'm worried that you won't have seen the scorching hot movie take, and then
hey, you know what? I've built part of my career, Catch, on not seeing movies I'm supposed to see. So we're good either way.
Guys, like, comment, subscribe to the page. We do appreciate that. Hey, join orangebloods.com by scanning that QR code if you haven't done so already, and then jump into the Specs chat. We're paying bills. Specs, Texas Card House, they make this show go. Specs in the chat. Texas Card House and Hijack Poker just in general. Yes, I played in the free roll this morning at 9 a.m. because it's free, and my two pairs, queens and jacks, ran into a set of sevens. Sometimes, Chad, you just get beat by a better hand, and that's what happened today. And I tipped my proverbial cap to the man or woman that took me out and was like, well, that's why you do that on free rolls, because it doesn't like hurt your soul when it takes out cash, but you can play for cash inside the state of Texas against real people. Go do it. Hijack Poker. Chad, SEC spring meetings are still going on in Destin. I feel like we're somewhat waiting for news of the day to come out of today's events. I know Anwar at some point today is talking to Chris Del Conte. I know he's got conversations planned, I think, with Jim Schlossnagle today, which is kind of odd because why would Schloss be in Destin? I don't know. Anwar's talking to people today.
There's a baseball game that's going to happen on yeah.
That's all.
They play at 1 o'clock.
They've got the early game, Chad, so like he has to get back even earlier.
They're playing at 1 o'clock Friday, right? Isn't that true?
They are.
Yeah.
No truth to the rumors, by the way, that on Friday, Chad and I will be doing live game watching reaction. We're not doing that.
That will not happen. No.
We were going to do it if A&M had made the postseason, but they didn't, and it just ruined it.
Yeah, right. We had it all lined up for the Aggie softball watch-alongs, and then it just fell apart.
Oh, come on, Aggies. No, Chad, it feels like yesterday, with a little bit of time to just marinate on kind of everything that happened. I woke up today, and like one of the things I told you was that I think there are a lot of little nuggets that came out of yesterday, but I'm absolutely fascinated by there's a like 30,000 feet up discussion about the offensive line that Sark kind of had yesterday, and maybe not even intentionally, but it's one we started to have on the show yesterday. But Anwar and I were going back and forth through it, and you weren't really involved in that piece of the discussion. So I wanted to ask you a question, because we're going to dive into Texas isn't taking a guy in the portal, and they believe that they're building through the high school ranks, and that it's not that there'll be a young team, that they'll just have new faces, right? We're getting some messaging and coding for what that looks like. But I keep going back to this reality, and this is my question for you. The reality is that Texas actually had one of the best offensive lines in the country last year, that it was nominated for the Joe Moore Award, which goes out to the best Texas offensive line. There were games, whether it be Michigan, whether it be Texas A&M, there were games on the schedule where that offensive line really took control of games against good defenses. It's an offensive line that has a first-round draft pick on it. Hayden Connor got drafted. Cam Williams got drafted. DJ Campbell will eventually get drafted. Jake Majors, priority free agent. But like it's going to end up being an offensive line that the overwhelming majority of guys will play in the NFL. And yet, against Ohio State and Georgia, they got outclassed. Nobody disputes that. Nobody says, no, Texas had more control on the offensive line and the line of scrimmage that day in those three games than you're giving them credit for. People will argue about the sun rising in the east, Chad, with me, but they won't argue that point. So here's where I am. If that's true, is it really even possible? Because that's the best Texas offensive line in 20 years. Whatever this year's group's going to be, one that Sark's not panicking over, on paper, it's not going to be better than last year's line, which was for more than half a generation the best offensive line that Texas has seen. But in these big games, it just got worked. Can you even build, what is an elite offensive line in 2025? Can it exist? And in matchups against Ohio State or Georgia or Alabama a few years ago, or maybe Texas now, how do you win that battle? Because those teams have 5 stars and badass future first-round draft picks all over the place. And the thing that we would say about Texas when they played against Ohio State and or Florida, we would go, yes, best offensive line they've had in 20 years. But only one of those guys is talked about in the same breath as the guys on defense for those other teams. So what is I found myself this morning thinking that the Holy Grail, the Moby Dick of college football, may be this idea that in 2025 you can build an elite offensive line that's better than the best they'll see on defense at a few select places across the country.
Yeah.
And real quick, and if you can't, if it's impossible, if it truly is fishing for Moby Dick, well, then what do you do? How do you recalibrate your brain? Because I could argue if, look, man, you're just never going to catch Moby Dick, then last year's offensive line might be as good as it is going to get. But how do you set that as that's the bar we're shooting for when you know at the end against Ohio State they won't be able to block anybody and gain a yard in the red zone when they need it?
I mean, to me, there's a couple different discussions at the same time. There's the last year discussion, and then there's the confidence he has moving forward. But to last year, I don't know if where they were and the ultimate goal is that far apart. Like, think about that offense for a second. Think about the injuries that hit that offense. Not just the line, everywhere. Receiver, running back, O-line. They had all those opportunities to tie that game against Ohio State. We could talk about if you had a healthy guy on the right side of the line at that moment, is that play different? If, you get a touchdown pass instead of those pass interference penalties, is that different? If you run a different play on the pitch play we've talked too much about, is that different? So I don't know that they're that far away from where it needs to be, because you referenced it. We saw moments, Ann Arbor, College Station, I would argue Fayetteville, times where they needed to bow up a little bit. Clearly 2 years ago in Tuscaloosa was one of those nights too, where Sark could tell us, hey, fellas, we had a pretty badass offensive line when we needed it. And I'm guessing, Catch. I mean,
isn't it unfair to those Texas offensive linemen to act like those guys are a bunch of jags? Because there were, I can remember them walking off the field against Michigan in a game that featured a bunch of NFL dudes in maize and blue.
And they pushed them around.
They dominated the line of scrimmage.
They beat them by 19 in their house, the big house. So it's not that far away. And I think that's where Sark's confidence is coming from to move forward. He would tell us, like, fellas, it's not we're that far away. We feel like we're close. And then what he laid out yesterday, it was confidence in Kyle Flood. It was confidence in the recruiting, confidence in the development. Now, would you and I have told him, yeah, but didn't you want to peek into the portal once? Didn't you want to peek in there one time to make sure?
Well, he did once.
Right, but not for this cycle, right? They didn't go offensive line in this portal cycle,
not in the spring.
Not in the spring.
They did go after Emmanuel Program from USC who went to Oregon.
And they didn't actually, I'm saying they didn't actually acquire anyone in either window, right? So his confidence is based on all that stuff from the inside, and there was no portal addition. So, one of the biggest questions in 2025 is he right? Because if he's wrong, what do you do? If he finds out he's wrong somewhere in that game in Columbus, what do you do? Or more appropriately, Gainesville or Athens?
Well, you know what I think? Look, if we take this thing, instead of 30,000 feet, we go up to 40,000 feet so we can look down on the 30,000 feet. The elephant in the room is that for the last dozen years or so, really going back to post Jameis Winston, although honestly, you can grandfather Jameis and Cam Newton into this. If you go back to like the last 15 years, it's a whole lot of Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. Those are the three schools that have dominated in recruiting to such an extent that every year one of those teams have won a national championship. They've had one of these defensive lines that we're talking about, where it's like, did all those guys play in the NFL?
Right. Well, and because that's
like, you mean the backups to the backups, right? Because they didn't just go in the NFL. They were first and second day picks. So I think the anomalies, if we go back in time, they're far and few between. I talked about this on the show yesterday. It's Joe Burrow. It's Trevor Lawrence. It's Deshaun Watson. It's Cam Newton. It's Jameis Winston. These anomalies. Now, none of these teams were void of talent. Not one of these teams. LSU was loaded. They had first-round draft picks everywhere. But, boy, did they have a nuclear weapon at quarterback. Same thing with Florida State with Jameis Winston. Of course, Florida State was super talented. And, yes, all the talent came together in a way where they had a bunch of guys drafted in the NFL draft. But they had arguably the best quarterback talent in the country at that time. When we look back last year against Texas, I think what's really interesting is how far down the scale in terms of quality of offensive line can you go if your quarterback plays elite? Because I wonder how much better could that Texas offensive line have been where it would have mattered. You almost had to turn those guys into players that they're not in order to physically win those battles at the line of scrimmage. They could have played 10 times. And 9 or 10 out of those times, those physical matchups are going the way they're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's when teams have great quarterback play that suddenly that badass defensive line, and we see it in the NFL too, right? There's a reason why Patrick Mahomes is on and Aaron Rodgers are on all of the commercials. There's a reason why Tom Brady is on Netflix with a special instead of Aaron Donald. It's not because they're not great. It's because the quarterback position is a thing that elevates. And I think this gets to the root of what you think Texas can be this year. They're not as good at running back. They're not as good at wide receiver. They're not as good at tight end. They're not as good at the offensive line. But they may be significantly better at quarterback. And if that's true, and it really depends on what that means, how much better at quarterback. Are they Baker Mayfield good at quarterback, or are they Brock Purdy good at quarterback?
Yeah, and then the other question would be, in terms of getting after the other team's quarterback, are they as good in 2025, or are they better in 2025? Because those are the two elements I really care about if you're going to be a national championship kind of deal. Are you getting good quarterback play, and can you attack the other quarterback?
Well, the problem that Texas had all year is that beyond the first month of the season, first couple of games of the season, it didn't have anywhere near elite quarterback play. Like, that's just the thing. Like, this team's kryptonite was that they were bang average at quarterback.
Yep.
And we tried to have the conversation, and it couldn't occur for wildly strange reasons that were beyond control.
Right. Mainly that the coach didn't want that conversation. The head coach would not allow it to happen.
The one thing, when you look at the history, hey, man, you know who didn't have elite offensive lines when they won the national championship? LSU. Clemson, either time. Florida State. Auburn. You can go back the last half generation of football. And you know who else didn't really have great offensive line? That 2005 Texas team. Justin Blaylock was legitimately a great player. I've never heard anybody clamor for, hey, man, you know what we could use right now? Another Jonathan Scott. Great player, All-American, right? But not played in the NFL for a long time, but wasn't thought of as a guy that when he left, what happened when he left? They replaced him with Tony Hills, who was a third-round pick and roughly a wash. Like that was the level. And then you go inside, it's like, well, Lau Sinline's a guy that, boy, you take one of him at center every day of the week for the rest of your life. But he was undrafted coming out of college. Casey Studdard was a 6th or 7th round pick, kind of a role player, bench guy while he was in the league. Will Allen didn't even play on Sundays. He just retired. You know, the best offensive line of all time. And I point this out, the greatness of Emmitt Smith for me, Chad, beyond the rings, beyond all the yards and the records, is that guy inherited a journeyman's offensive line. I mean, Mark Tuinei wasn't going, they couldn't even decide what side of the ball they wanted to put him on. Nate Newton was a cast-off from the USFL and then Washington. Stepnoski was an undersized center. Kevin Gogan or any of the guys that you wanted to point to, like those guys were just kind of getting, you know, eventually they draft Eric Williams and they draft Larry Allen. But in the beginning, Emmitt Smith was such a badass that he took an offensive line full of journeymen and convinced everybody that they were the reason why he was having success. That, hey, man, that dude had Nate Newton and Mark Tuinei and Mark Stepnoski and Kevin Gogan before he went to the Raiders. Like, you start doing that and you're like, yeah, but so did Paul Palmer the year before. All of those guys were on the 88 Cowboys and the 89 Cowboys. In 1990, something changed. And suddenly, Nate Newton started going to Pro Bowls. And suddenly, Mark Tuinei started going to Pro Bowls. And suddenly, Kevin Gogan got a big contract from the Raiders. Special players make everybody around them better. It is the tide that lifts all boats. And the reality is, we've only seen great quarterback play in 2.5 seasons of our lives at Texas. And if we were to throw Texas A&M in there, you're probably talking about 3.5 seasons, maybe 4. I don't know how the hell we talk about Johnny Manziel's second season, but truly elite special football, Vince in 2005, and for half a year in 2004, and Colt in 2008. And that's it. So it's really hard for us to think about a Texas team and what it would look like if second or third team All-America good quarterback play had been on last year's team. Forget about winning the Heisman. Just somebody who's in that discussion. Yeah. Texas wins the national championship. In fact, they might have done the thing that Sark said nobody is ever going to do. Because if you give me a nationally elite quarterback, give me Michael Penix from Washington. And let me have Michael Penix on this Texas team against Georgia twice last season and Ohio State in the playoffs. And I'm confident that Texas wins those games. But in the biggest games, they never had the Michael Penix that we saw against Texas in the playoffs a couple of years ago. They never had a guy, even when Texas beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, those moon balls that Ewers hit on that you give him a ton of credit for, but he was never able to replicate those ever again. No. That was a one-off. That was not anything that was ever repeated in another game ever again. And I think that was the problem with Quinn. It's why when we would look at the Michigan game last year, Chad, it's why we referenced it all season. It's why it was like, man, if you could only get that Quinn from well, you know what? We said that the season was over with. And we were still going back to, if you could have bottled up week 2 and had that guy all season long, that's kind of the problem. Texas didn't have quarterback play that was good enough that it made you ever forget about the thing that happened in week 2.
Yeah. All right, Catch. So a couple things here. We have a super chat from yesterday. After you jumped off the show, someone had a specific super chat for you. So we're going to re-rack that coming up here in just a second. And then I have a question after what the conversation we just had. We're talking about the Sark confidence in the offensive line moving forward, and we will get back to that discussion. Thank you guys for jumping in the Specs chat. Let's give some love to some of our great partners, including the good folks at Sinus and Snoring Specialists. I told you I'm about to go on this cruise, which means sleeping in a very strange situation, but I know I'll be sleeping good, and so will my wife because of Sinus and Snoring Specialists. My wife has a CPAP machine. If you don't know this, when you go on a cruise, let them know that you have a CPAP, and they will send the distilled water to your room. You don't have to pack it and bring it along with you. You can bring that alcohol with you, a little duty free if you like. I think that's allowed. But don't worry about bringing the distilled water. They'll send it to your room for you. That's what they did with my wife. I think it's been one cruise now, maybe two, that she's had the CPAP, and she loves it, and she sleeps like a baby. It's fantastic. You can have that kind of stuff too with Sinus and Snoring Specialists, but it may not be a CPAP. It may be like my situation that doesn't involve a CPAP at all. There's a lot of different choices, a lot of options, surgical and non-surgical. Check them out. 601-0303 or sinussnoringent.com. Feel clear, rested, and healthy with Sinus and Snoring Specialists. All right. So we had a super chat yesterday, Catch, right after you got off. I just told Jay to re-rack it for us so we can get your thoughts. And I believe it was a $10 super chat. Catch, you mentioned elite quarterbacks are the exceptions to your data on Monday. Where was OU ranked talent-wise the years they had Baker and Kyler, and doesn't that make it more embarrassing that they failed?
Jay, that's a good question. I think the obvious answer is that it can't be it can't be all-time great quarterback play alone. And the LSU team in 2019 is probably the best example of that. I mean, Joe Burrow, if I hadn't seen Vince Young with my own eyes, I would say that I've never seen anything like the season that Joe Burrow had in 2019. I mean, it was passing-wise, I don't know that we'll ever see it again. It was seriously next level. But there's still an LSU team loaded with talent. And so if we were to go back and look, the super blue chip talent that LSU would have compiled under the Cookie Monster was actually pretty high. And if you go back and look at those Clemson teams, their super blue chip numbers at the height of the Clemson powers were probably top 10 level in the sport, kind of where they are now. But one thing they always did a good job of, and I think we would say the same thing about Florida State, and I think this is a real critical component of this, Jay. You've asked the right question. What did those OU teams not have that the LSU team in 2019 would have had, the Florida State team in 2013, the Auburn team in 2010? The answer is, and those Clemson teams, especially with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, they recruited like mother you-know-whats on the defensive line. So while the totality, think about what Oklahoma would have had. They would have ranked as a top 10 team nationally, probably in super blue chips at the height of Lincoln Riley's reign. But they were very similar to Tom Herman top classes. It was like, okay, well, that's the quarterback and 5 of the wide receivers, and that's almost all of the elite talent, maybe a running back. But defensively, when you look up front in the front 6, front 7, they weren't stacking guys like that up. So what it really takes, if you go back and look at those teams, they were stout. I mean, Florida State was stout up front on the defensive line. All those teams were. Auburn was. Mm-hmm. You've got to have the elite of the elite quarterback play. And then you have to be some version on the defensive line of these Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama teams. Maybe you're not quite that good, but you could be in a neighboring zip code in terms of proximity. And I think that's the thing that would excite you a little bit if you're Texas, but you also know you're not quite all the way there. That from a recruiting standpoint, Justice Terry just arrived, and the defensive tackle recruiting before that under Bo Davis sucked. It just did. We can say it now. He's gone. Bo, don't ever come back, because this is on, like, being broadcasted live. Somebody will cut this clip up and put it in front of Bo Davis, and it'll be, hey, we can say it out loud. Bo Davis's recruiting sucked. You guys try to convince yourself that these basic ass 4-star guys are the same as these monsters that these other schools, the Georgias and the Alabamas and the Ohio States are recording, and they're not. It's hard to know what Texas has done through the portal. I have no idea really how to talk about that portal group other than to say I think they're going to be okay, but I don't know.
Yeah. But the key comparison here, Catch, would be for Jay's super chat. Texas has way more dangerous players on defense coming up this year than OU had on those teams.
Well, yeah, and but what I'm saying is the difference, what OU wouldn't have had in any of those years is a foundation of talent elsewhere. That the thing you would say about all of those other teams is that they did they have elite quarterback play? Yes, they did. Did they also have probably a dozen guys drafted in the NFL, and were a bunch of those condensed on the defensive side of the ball? Think about those Clemson teams. Their recipe was monster defensive ends, big ass defensive tackles, elite quarterback play.
Yeah.
And for a couple of years, they sprinkled in a Sammy Watkins here.
Yeah, right. Good skill, but not like blow your mind skill.
For like a year or two, they had blow your mind skill. But the recipe for what won them championships was elite defensive line, elite quarterback play. And when you go backwards and look at the non-Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State stranglehold on college football, every time there's an anomaly, that's the recipe. And so, Jay, OU, and look, we don't know that Texas has elite quarterback play this year. We don't. We know that the totality of the roster is as good as anybody in college football. But in terms of specifically the defensive line, I don't know. We can talk about Colin Simmons in that breath. I don't know we're at a point yet where any of these other guys we're definitely talking about as first or second day draft picks. So you can't really compare this Texas defensive line yet to those other teams, specifically the anomaly teams, although I would argue that Texas can't be an anomaly team now because they've shifted into the power structure that in some years was just Alabama and Georgia, and some years Ohio State played their way in, for instance, a year ago and this year. But it hasn't always been that way. You go back 5 years and Ohio State was left in the dust, and guess what? They were literally left in the dust in the spectrum of who was winning championships. They weren't really competing for them. It was really Georgia and Alabama, and now they've caught that leading pack. So has Texas. So, but if we talk about what the recipes are consistently, it is defensive line and quarterback play. If you have those two things, it's really hard not to go far in college football. And so, I tend to think the Texas defense as a unit is going to be elite. I don't know. I don't know completely how to talk about this Texas defensive line. It's not like I'm worried about it at all. I just think you have to be cautious with the amount of hyperbole you want to toss on a group that's full of some guys that haven't done it here before.
Yeah, and I'm on a limb saying this Texas defense will be better than those OU defenses with Kyler.
Is that a limb?
Huge limb. Huge limb. Feels like
it's the sturdiest limb in the history of limbs.
Dude, we're building houses out on that limb.
Well, and to that point, Chad, I feel, Baker was against Georgia in the playoffs, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. In the Rose Bowl when they scored 800 and lost.
I mean, that was the team and that was the quarterback.
Yeah.
And what they didn't have, Jay, was they had one part of that in spades. The other part of it, they had no spades.
What year was that, Catch? You got a guess on that for me?
16? 2015, 2016?
54-48 double overtime.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they didn't have points going into overtime.
Good.
They scored points.
They gave up 527 total yards and 9.3 per carry in that game.
And that's why Oklahoma, no matter how, and nobody's had better quarterback play than Oklahoma has. The final 2 seasons of Baker coupled with the 1 year of Kyler is the best 3-year stretch of quarterback play in the history of the sport. It's never been better. Never. You would need Joe Burrow to play 2 more seasons at LSU doing the shit he did in that 1 season at LSU just to match the 3-year stretch that Oklahoma had.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't get anything out of it because, and look, these are some of this stuff, a little bit of research we'll find out, but there's some real realities to this sport that if you were a player making a college decision and you had options to go anywhere, if the goal is I want to go someplace where I can win a national championship, those places are far and fewer than between. And now I wonder what a guy like Michael Fasusi was thinking last year. I guess he was just thinking I want to go hang out with my homeboys and I like it there. But that's a school that doesn't know who their quarterback of the future is. That's not even what Mateer is this year. He bought in, signed in with a program that just on the baseline surface of the conversation that we're having, they're light years away. Because even if they find the quarterback, they still got to figure out that defensive line thing that while Venables is a defensive coach and a really, on paper should be producing elite defenses, he's not recruiting the talent that allows him in the SEC to go body for body, man for man. And I don't know, if I feel like if Michael Fasusi and some 5-star athletes sat through some symposiums of college football and winning data and the trends that exist and what has to exist in order for a team, I probably would do anything that within my power to make sure that I end up on Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, or Alabama. It may be Oregon. Oregon's almost in that group, but otherwise your chances are if you're a running back, you got to go, well, hey, do we have an all-time great quarterback in the making? Because that would help. Otherwise, I'm kind of wasting my body playing for you guys because we ain't winning shit. It's like going through – it's like in the movie Spaceballs when they're combing the desert with the hair pick. Mm-hmm. If you don't have those athletes on the defensive side of the ball, your best case scenario is Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley in the end of the Bob Stoops era. If that's as good as it can get. Literally the best quarterback play that the sport has ever seen, and you find yourself in 50-50, 54-48 games because the overall state of your roster doesn't match what the other team's state of the roster looks like.
Yep. 45 all going to that overtime, just for the record catch. By the way, speaking of quarterbacks.
What was Baker's stat line in that game?
Baker's stat line.
He was again.
Baker Mayfield was 23 of 35 for 287, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
That's not even as good as I thought he was.
Yeah, not quite that. But I would have thought more as well. 23 of 35, 287.
He was great that night.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he was unreal. Rodney Anderson had 26 carries for 201 for OU.
Whatever happened to Rodney Anderson?
I don't know.
He just got hurt, and that was it.
That is absolutely silly. Oscar, I see the super chat. I see that it involves Quinn.
Super chat. So
before we get there, we're going to take a breath. And we're going to take a drink at the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. I feel like we're going to need it because Thursday is coming up. That's tomorrow. We're talking to you on a Wednesday. Thursday through Sunday is when they are open and ready to roll for you. Make sure you have some of that Crimson Creek Smokehouse barbecue as well. They got all these great margaritas, all these great cocktails, including the Margarita Vibe, that Texas margarita, and others. They've got the pineapple stuff now because Deep Eddy Pineapple is out there. So get on out there. Tell them you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live, the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. Okay, here we go, Oscar. $9.99 super chat. I've come to the realization that Quinn can't be a high-level quarterback because of his personality. Could you imagine Brady being a quiet lead by example guy? Question mark, exclamation point. Wow. I'm blaming you for that, Catch. Blaming you. You talk quarterbacks and elite quarterback play.
The thing is, I don't think we would care about his personality if he was actually good. Like there were Jeff George comparisons 2 or 3 years ago, him coming into college football. But Jeff George had special arm talent.
Yeah. You can do it. The leadership thing can be done a lot of ways at that position. We've seen different versions of it.
I think there are guys in the NFL right now who are kind of mid-level pro quarterbacks, but were great in college. I don't know that their leadership skill. I don't know that Baker Mayfield's leadership skills. I don't know what they are. Like, I think he's the opposite of Quinn Ewers. Like, I think those guys are opposites. But I don't know that in the NFL, Baker Mayfield's really winning the locker room. Maybe. But is it because of his leadership, or is it because he plays well? And then if you play well, guys believe in you and they'll put up with almost anything.
Yeah. I think it's just, I don't know. I think one does play off of the other in certain ways. And if you're going to have the demeanor that Quinn has, then that football part does have to provide the dazzle and provide the spark and provide the fire. And his football didn't consistently do that.
Quinn's got a little too much Jay Cutler in him.
Oh, God. that cuts to it, doesn't it? That just gets right to it.
But, man, look, Jay Cutler was a playoff starter at quarterback. Ultimately, he just wasn't good enough. And what everybody would do is point to who he was dating or kind of his aloof attitude on the sidelines and his body language. But, man, you can get away with it. And Matt Stafford may be the best example of that.
Right.
Matt Stafford is the same guy in LA that he is in Detroit.
Yeah.
But in Detroit, he won a Super Bowl, and it was like, oh.
The ingredients go together, Catch, because you also can't be super bravado leadership guy and just be horrible.
Yeah.
Right?
I do think that at the end of the day, Quinn's problem is that, and this wasn't just against the Georgias and the Ohio States. That, if it was just that, this would all be so much easier to explain. It's that it didn't matter who was on the schedule. That in almost every game he played in at Texas, 30-minute stretches would occur where the offense, and he just didn't perform. And we would do these mental gymnastics where we would say, well, the reason that happened this week was different than the reason from that week. And when that happened 3 weeks ago, we start saying, well, there's nothing that's consistently happening that explains why the passing game completely shuts down. Well, no, there are actually some reasons. You have to say them out loud, though. And it's, what's the common denominator? The quarterback. Quarterback never changes. Mm-hmm. And in all these games where the offense isn't performing, there are different reasons. And what do I always say? What's an excuse? Sometimes an excuse is just the reason why something happens. And it might just be the excuse for this Texas offense was their quarterback wasn't good enough. And only now, in the light of day, after the NFL draft, when the season is over, when you combine everything together and you look at the way, I think that's the most startling thing, because when we previously looked at Quinn, Chad, the conversation was so personal. You can't separate your confirmation bias from this discussion. But the NFL doesn't give a damn about confirmation bias. They will cut someone's throat to get somebody around earlier than they think they otherwise should have been able to get a guy. And we saw that they just every team passed repeatedly on Quinn Ewers. And at no point before the 7th round felt like, man, he's just too good of a deal to pass up. My God, it's Quinn Ewers, for God's sake. Nobody had that thought. And so when the NFL finally kind of made it clear, because even going into the draft, we were having conversations about, what do you think? Is he going to sneak into the second day? What do we think? Top 100 picks, buy or sell. Like those weren't just us. Those were taking place everywhere. It could have just as easily have been a Daniel Jeremiah question as a Jeff and Chad question. In the end, the results were honestly, it's exactly the sobering indictment that everybody needed to see in the light of day. Because it does allow us to have the conversation today of what will it mean if this program with its offensive line that's not as good, but what does it mean if the quarterback plays really good? Really good.
Yeah. Oscar.
I feel like we'll look back and we'll go, what were we talking about? That offensive line was better this year than it was last year. Suddenly we'll be saying all kinds of positive things that we didn't think we were. Hey, you know what happens? You know what people are going to say about Steve Sarkisian if the quarterback play is very, very good, Chad?
What's that?
Ain't nobody better in the red zone than Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, right.
Because when you have elite quarterback play, it's the tide. It lifts everything up. And part of the problem that Sark has had in the last, think about it, last 2 years. What did he do in the last offseason?
Worked on red zone.
He told us first day of camp last year, our number one priority was the red zone. We worked on it the entire offseason. Number one offseason agenda, get better in the red zone. They didn't. It's still a talking point. And it's like, okay, well, were the running backs the same? Well, no, those were different. Well, what about the wide receivers? No, actually, completely different set of guys. They brought in transfers and everything. What about tight end? Well, no. 1 year it was Jatavian Sanders, and then the next year was Gunnar Helm. Well, what about the offensive line? Yeah, the offensive line was about the same. Were they significantly better 1 year versus the next? No, they're about the same. They were good enough in either year to beat Alabama or Michigan, but bad enough to struggle in games against Wyoming and Arkansas. Okay, with a lot of differences, some similarities. Quarterback. Oh, no, that guy was definitely the same. Oh. If Quinn had been 20 points better on his efficiency rating for the season, which would have put him from average to not great, but pretty damn good, Texas wins the national championship. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that Arch needs to win a national, doesn't need a Heisman set of numbers for Texas to get there. Where Texas may be now is the place where we talked about Will Howard a year ago. Will Howard wasn't special. Nobody really thought Will Howard was the best player in college football. But Will Howard was sitting at about $180 from a quarterback efficiency standpoint. And it usually meant that when they it didn't happen in every game, right? Because Ohio State had a couple of L's. But more times than not, Will Howard played at a very, very high level. And it's why they crossed the line for the finish line. They were a little bit better in the biggest of big games than Texas was able to get from its quarterback play. So, it reminds me that like 2000 election when, was it Tim Russert, the old NBC guy? Mm-hmm. And they were like asking him about something. And he was like, Florida, Florida, Florida. And I feel that way about every conversation that we're going to have the rest of the offseason, Chad. Quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. I don't need anyone to tell me anything about this team next year other than give me Arch's stat line. Chad, give me a stat line right now. Make one up in your head, a 12-game stat line for Arch Manning, and I will tell you the season that Texas has.
Make up a 12-game stat line?
Yeah.
If 40 touchdowns,
they're
10
in the SEC championship game and a top 4 seed.
Okay, there you go. All right.
I don't need to hear anything more than you just went to 40 touchdowns.
Yeah, let's circle back around to the Sark thing in a second here.
First, undefeated if that dude throws for 40 touchdowns this season.
Yeah, you're bringing me back to Sark's mindset here the more you talk. Over 500 of you in the Specs chat. Let's thank you and Specs. And then I got a question for Catch. Specs has it all for you.
Texans know for selection and lower prices, it all starts at Specs. Shop Specs! No matter what's on the menu, we've got you covered. With all your favorites on tap, you'll bring home the win. Shop Specs! Special occasion? Flirt responsibly. Boots on, drinks up. The fun starts here.
Shop Specs, low priced, amazing. Here's to you.
All right, Catch, a couple things. Number one, kind of two different groups here, but number one, you make me think of Texas fans. I put a post on orangebloods.com this week about the what if game. The Aaron Murray thing got me headed down that path. We've talked about it a little bit, but I dig into the what if Arch would have started in 2024 thing, but then also extrapolate it out for Texas fans. Because if I was a Texas fan, I wouldn't know quite how to process all that.
I thought you woke up and chose violence.
But no, it wasn't that. I feel like there's multiple groups of Texas fans.
You asked the question. It was like, are you going to hold a grudge against Steve Sarkisian forever? ...
Right. And I think some will. In a weird way, I think some fans will. I think it's.
I said you chose violence.
Yeah, I think that's silly. But again, as I tried to do in the comment, like you've always said, people's feelings are valid, and they're not my feelings. They're Texas fans' feelings. So just kind of a discussion there. But back to Sark's feelings. His confidence yesterday, we talked about, well, which part of the offensive line do you think is creating most of this confidence? So now I'm going to re-rack the question for you. How much of his confidence do you think is truly about this offensive line as he spoke on it? But then what ingredient do you think Arch is adding to this? Is Sark thinking of all of it at once? And he's considering what you're talking about today. Hey, I know what quarterback play I'm going to get. And that makes me feel better about offensive line and anything else you ask me about.
I think it's as simple as that.
Okay.
I think he knows he's got better quarterback play. And I think, by the way, pop quiz. The season record for touchdown passes in a season at Texas. It's an obvious one. So I even if you don't get the number, you should get the quarterback in the year.
The season record for touchdown passes at Texas, I'm guessing, is Colton 08?
Yeah, 34.
Oh, wow. You wouldn't believe it, but that's exactly what I was about to guess. Dadgummit.
Okay, so only one other quarterback in school history has thrown more than 29 in a season.
Wow.
So not as much as 34, but did break the 30 mark.
Man. Okay, so only one other got to 30. And I know it's not Vince because
Vince's high mark was 26.
Right, 26 was the number in 05 because I just peeked at that number. James Brown? No, it wouldn't have been that, not with those offenses.
Sam Ehlinger, 2019 through 32 touchdown passes.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I wasn't going to guess Sam. Okay.
The only two players in school history that have thrown for more than 26 in a season. And I have to go back. I'm literally on the school website for stats. I need to at least go back and make sure that they haven't not updated this with 2024. So I don't know. I got to go back and look at what Quinn did last year because I don't see they don't have Quinn listed at all. It's like, did he really not throw that many touchdown passes? But Colt 27, 29, and 34, Sam 32. So when you say 40 for Arch,
yeah,
that just blows my. We literally. Not only have we never seen that, that's within like 1,000-foot pole of what we typically see in most seasons.
Yeah, that's why I decided to go a little extreme there. See, I figured 40 would get you to react in a positive way.
40, they are undefeated going to the SEC championship game.
Yeah, and by the way, in case people had forgotten, you did reference Burrow earlier in 2019. 60 touchdowns, 6 picks. Which is just, and 5,671 yards. I don't even know how to.
Hey, yeah. And you know what? Quinn did throw 31 last year. So
okay.
he got there ultimately Quinn's ended up playing 14 games last year. So,
so those three,
31. So he's number 3 on the list behind Colt and Sam.
Those 3 have gotten there. Okay, interesting. And thanks to our man CB. Where'd it go?
Come on, UT, update your stats online. Like,
yeah, got to do that.
make me look bad. I'd do that enough on my own without leaning on stats that are old.
Yeah, nice passer rating for Colt there. 173.8, 34 touchdowns, almost 3,900 yards passing. Thank you for that. Oh, sorry, Big Cheddar threw that at us. Thank you, Big Cheddar. Appreciate you. All right, if y'all want to jump in the chat, feel free. If you want to get in the super chat, you can certainly do that. It'll go right to the top of the list. Mr. Ketchum, why don't you tell them about Rogue Shop on this beautiful Wednesday and what they can do for them?
Oh, while you can, you need to take advantage of Texas. Texas is home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. You scan that QR code, you feel good. Make you feel good. Make the joints feel good. Make the anxiety go away. Make the pain go away. Make the sleeplessness go away. Just take the edge off necessarily. There's a little something for everybody. If you go to the website, rogueshop.com, scan that QR code, let it take you there. There's a little form you fill out, answer a few questions. It will point you in the direction that you probably need to go in the most. It will help you. That's the whole concept of this business is put you in a place to make your life a little bit better. Good people doing good things with good products. I love me some Rogue Shop. And damn the state of Texas for even thinking about taking even a little bit of it away from us. Damn you guys. Damn you. Damn you.
It's a shame is what it is. It's a damn shame. A damn shame. All right. So we're talking
judging.
about
judging.
Lots of judging. We're talking about the SEC spring meeting. Sark's confidence yesterday in the team. You could definitely feel it. Catch, I still wonder about everybody else in that room. We talked yesterday with Anwar about it, where there was this kind of anger around. There was kind of a tension around certain people. Greg Sankey talking about the sort of anger coming at him and different coaches talking about it. But Sark felt cool and calm to me, just felt really confident with what he's got. And, why wouldn't he going into this season? I think I think he should be that way. I think a lot of Texas fans have that in Sark we trust feeling. And one of our chatters, Michelle, your never had enchilada sister, yesterday said, man, he just talked me into this offensive line being awesome. I'm buying, the confidence is coming out of him as we're less than 100 days away from the season. So I'll be interested to see, does that continue into SEC media days and continuing on? Is everybody else kind of tense, but Sark feels like there's not a lot of, I don't feel a lot of tension around him right now.
No, and I think that is at the root of the question you asked earlier, which is, what do you think Sark is thinking? I think Sark's thinking, I'm going to go to the Han Solo bit twice, but I think he's thinking, I got Arch, and hey, it's me. And I think Sark never loses faith in himself. I think that's unshakable. And to be him, you have to be on some level. So I think that's the answer to a lot of questions about this Texas offense, is that it's kind of Sark's attitude about running backs. Every year you guys are talking to me about this running back position. And every year I have 1,000-yard running back. And I tell you guys this stat every year. And every year I still have 1,000-yard running back. Does it take 16 weeks sometimes? Yeah, this year it did.
Yeah, and I'm telling you what, if the Trey Wisner thing doesn't shut everybody up, I mean, that changes the questions moving forward, because I did not think that he was getting it last year.
If I told you in week 9 that Wisner was about to be 1,000-yard running back, you'd have been like, I am actually going to order some Rogue, because
yeah, right.
Exactly. On it.
They have Skittles? What? Skittles? Hot chocolate? Who?
By the way, I had a random thought. And I guess I'm going to ask you the question, Chad, but this feels like a question that Michelle should answer.
Mm-hmm.
We just brought up that we're like, we're play cousins because we're the last 2 remaining people on the face of the earth that haven't had enchiladas. And ever since that came out, I still have not had enchiladas. I've not even gone to a restaurant and thought to myself, is this the day that the enchiladas thing goes by the wayside,
Oh yeah. No, it's not. You've gone far enough. I think you should just fight it.
Well, so
Absolutely
now
fine.
I'm not trying to go out of my. This has never been like a conscientious war that I've waged.
Right.
But now every time Michelle's name gets mentioned, and I don't know how this is anything that a woman would want, but she's like enchilada mama now.
Enchilada Michelle.
She's enchilada mama. Like she's Michelle, but like it's impossible not to think. So then I was going to say, do you think this? My question's about to get here. Okay. I was like, Michelle and I just need to go get enchiladas together.
You and
we haven't
Michelle,
had enchiladas, but then I thought, is that a date? Did I just make a date? I'm married. I don't know what her situation is. Like if I say we should go get enchiladas together, I just don't know in 2025 if I crossed the line.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that should be your biggest issue.
Because I went to an early dinner with, I can't say too much.
Well, don't say too much.
But it was somebody who was once the girlfriend of somebody that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And like we got together and like talk about some sensitive stuff. And then like midway through, she hit me with like, we're on a date. And I was like, what? I'm married. I'm not on a date. This is not a date. This is not a date.
Okay. Yeah. That's definitely never happened to me.
And of course I asked my wife, like, because what the funny thing is, Heather on the way down there was like, maybe you should stop and get a hotel room and just stay the night because y'all might be talking for such a long time. So when I got home and told her, it's funny that you thought I should have got a hotel room because she thought it was a date.
Glad we didn't do that. Yeah, I would assume that Michelle would not, that wouldn't be an issue.
Lunch, right? To get an enchilada lunch.
My concern there would be, is the best thing to do to have y'all have your first enchilada experience to just do it together when neither of you have ever had it? Shouldn't we have each of you have
I don't know her either. I mean, that's the other thing. Like
that's
like
true.
Sharing your birthday with somebody. It's like, wait, we both have birthday hats on, but who's this person?
I think each of you, because it's one of those things of once you get this far into life, do you want to have like two virgins get together to figure out what sex is like? Maybe.
What did you just do? What did you just do?
Or would it be good for each of you to have your own enchilada Sherpa to get you to the top of that mountain?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking the question. Why are you asking the questions that I've already asked? I don't know the answers. I'm just saying that every time her name pops up in the chat now, there's a kinsmanship there between her and I that she may not feel at all.
Yeah, there's Michelle right there.
I feel like we've been associated. See?
Enchilada exhibition. Yep, that's it. Yep. And this is the one that is being recommended. This is Chance Mock's place.
I also think that everybody needs to do what Sandman's doing, right? Like, we need to know where to go. I'm tired of being told that I need to get enchiladas. I need people to start doing what Sandman's doing. Tell Michelle and I where we need to go to get enchiladas. I don't want to hear that I need to get them. I've heard that.
Yeah. Los Cucos. This is Chance's place. This is where I would tell you to go. Chance swears by that place.
I've never even heard of that place.
All the time. And you know what, Colby? I don't think so. I was trying to clarify the conversation. I don't think I made it weird. And to Chris, who then says, when doesn't an Aggie make it weird? How dare you, Chris? How dare you? There are plenty of times. It's just this particular Aggie probably always makes it weird.
I've been to Los Cucos like a million times. Their fajitas suck.
Oh, well, there you go. An ad for Los Cucos shows up on the show.
No, they've had ads. Like Chance Mock is right. I just said the fajitas aren't good.
The fajitas are not your thing. Okay. All right.
But it's a place that we've taken people for birthday parties, but like not through my choosing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe the margaritas are good. I don't know. I'm just saying I know where that is. I have been there at least 10 times.
Why don't you, of all people, what's the most legendary Mexican food place that you eat at regularly throughout your life? Is it Matt's El Rancho? Is it, is it more, more of a chain feel like a Chewy's or a Papacitos or something like what's the place that you've eaten at more than any other place? You didn't get the enchiladas yet, but what's the place?
It might be Papacitos using the methodology that, like, where have I gone the most?
Right.
Probably Papacitos.
So for you, I would argue that it's all about trust.
But I wouldn't want to go to Papacitos and not get chicken fajitas.
You're going to need to trust the place. And if Papacitos is so good at something else that you'd never order anything else, you got to find a different place. But
I need somebody that is an enchiladas expert to tell me what to do. Like I do. Yeah. I don't want to go to, I want the guesswork eliminated.
Yeah. The chances of you I've said it, I'll keep saying it. The chances of you actually liking enchiladas once you try them are so low. It's so low. Like, you've waited so long now, and I don't even know how to.
Are they not good? Are they overrated? What's happening now?
I mean, it's just, there's a lot of different types of enchiladas. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I know how picky you can be when you eat, and I just don't know. That's why I've said, I think you need to just go have a random version of enchiladas. That's what I think.
Taco Bell, do they do enchiladas?
I don't know that Taco Bell is where I would tell you to go. I don't think they do enchiladas. I would tell you to go hit
I'm going to go to Los Cucos. The damn place like 5 minutes away from here.
Papacitos or Chewy's or Los Cucos, because you're familiar with it. Just go have somebody's enchiladas so you can check it off your list, unless you'd just like to pride yourself on the fact that you haven't had enchiladas, and keep rolling. I mean, it's, that's what you got to figure out. Because I do enjoy when you stand on a line for something or against something. So I'd like for you to maybe wake up in like 2 weeks and go, you know what? Screw it. If it's not good enough for me before, it's not good enough for me now. I'm never having an enchilada. Like, you could do that. You could try that. You don't necessarily have to. You have a look on your face like you'd like to do buy or sell at some point. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is here. Okay. I tell you what, right before we do that, let me pay one more bill. The good folks at AV Consultations may not know much about enchiladas. Actually, they might. I don't know. Tom probably knows a lot about enchiladas, and I'm sure he's had them. I'm sure Camilla McKay has had enchiladas as well. But I know they can get you the whole enchilada when it comes to audio and visual and the whole setup you've been looking for. But it may just be about one screen. You want to get a little bigger screen. You want to get multiple screens. Don't forget, they can do all kinds of cool stuff around your house. Surveillance systems, computer systems, making sure all your networks are hooked up the right way, sound systems in your house and outside. You want a projection TV to do cool outdoor game watching stuff in football season. They can do all of that stuff for you. Check them out, 255-8678. They've been doing it since 1988. Long after they invented enchiladas. avconsultations.com or 255-8678. Check them out. All right, Mr. Ketchum, are you ready to buy or sell today?
No, but I'm ready. I'm as ready as not being ready can be.
I got you. All right, you want to go first or second?
I'll go second.
All right, let's get some basics out of the way first. By the way, I think I have made the font a little bigger for you. So I'm hoping you can read these even better. Buy or sell number one, Texas baseball gets to Omaha.
Buy. I think the path, the road has been much more difficult than the one they've been given. So I think they got a non-SEC super regional matchup potentially in the wings. This regional is very manageable. It'll be really, really disappointed if they don't. So I think more likely than not, the answer is a buy. So I'll say buy. Yes.
All right. Buy or sell number two, Texas softball will not get back to the championship series.
I'm going to go buy. They haven't been playing their best ball down the stretch while they were gutsy, really gutsy this past weekend. I mean, the winning runs on third base with no outs, and they found a way to get out of that jam. But, they ended the season slumpish. I don't know that we would say they played their best ball in each of the last couple of weekends, certainly not last weekend. I don't know that I have a ton of confidence that they're going to get there. They potentially have to get through Oklahoma in game number 2 if they get there. Although if they were to lose the opener, I guess, I don't know. if you get to game 2 and you lose to Oklahoma, you go out of that part of the bracket. I forget how it works, but
yeah, I double checked that yesterday, Catch. There are 2 teams that do flip brackets, and it's the ones that lose and win. So you lose your first game, win that second game, then you move to the other side of the bracket. Don't ask me why they do it. It's so bizarre.
So if you're going to lose, you need to lose early, the first game.
You would need to lose and then win, and then assuming Oklahoma would win their game, then you'd at least wouldn't have to deal with it until the championship series, but you're also giving yourself no room for error.
And it's not like that it's just the Texas and Oklahoma exhibition. I mean, there's a lot of really good teams there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go sell. I want to be wrong, but honesty is what it's about.
Yeah. Obviously, they do that series in Oklahoma City. Speaking of, buy or sell number 3. It looks like Oklahoma City and Indiana will be in the NBA Finals. They're both up 3-1. You'd take Oklahoma City in 6 right now.
Sell. I'll take every other possible outcome. I'll just take the field.
Okay.
I don't know that I disagree with Oklahoma City, but I don't know that I agree in 6. And there is a part of me that thinks Indiana's playing some pretty spectacular basketball right now. And
yeah,
Tyrese Halliburton.
Dude.
I've got a question for you that will be somewhat related to this, but like those guys, they're really good. They're a really good team.
For Halliburton, with his dad back in attendance, the first playoff performance ever with 30 points, 15 assists, and no turnovers.
It was crazy.
That's nuts. Plus, he had 12 boards, so he had a triple-double and no turnovers. It was just crazy. I can't wait to see those two play each other. It looks like that's definitely where we're headed. All right, Catch, here's a little movie one for you. Buy or sell number 4. I have now seen Man on Fire with Denzel and Dakota Fanning. I had not seen it until just this week. You have it in your Denzel top 10.
Give me a second.
Okay.
I did a Denzel top 10 recently.
Yeah, I felt like I'd read one in the basic, recent past, not too far back.
I know that it's going to be close. So I want to look at, I literally did it in November.
Okay.
So in November, I ranked my top 10 Denzel movies. And from 10 going backwards. Number 10 was The Equalizer. Mm-hmm. Number 9, American Gangster. Number 8, Man on Fire.
Okay, so it did make the list.
I called it the best of the Denzel will fuck you up movies that have dominated so much of the last 20 years.
It is so good. I knew it would be. The cool part is I'd never seen one scene of the movie. Like I avoided it. I somehow managed and have never seen any of it, but I love those two so much. I thought this has got to be a great movie. I've heard good things and it was fantastic. I really enjoyed that one. It's good stuff.
Real quick,
right.
the rest of my top 10 so Flight was number 7.
Flight's great.
Crimson Tide, number 6.
Oh yeah.
Remember the Titans, 5.
Okay.
Mo Better Blues, 4. Underrated. If you haven't seen that Spike Lee joint, check it out. Training Day, number 3. Inside Man, number 2. I think one of the most underrated movies of the century.
Okay.
And Malcolm X, number 1.
Malcolm X, number 1. There you go. By the way, my daughter recently just wanted to watch Remember the Titans out of nowhere. Hey, do you want to watch Remember the Titans? Yes, I do. And we sat down and watched it. It's fantastic as well. All right, Catch. Finally, one of your favorites had a birthday yesterday. Let's hit it. Buy or sell number 5. Andre 3000 hit 50 yesterday. 50. And Lisa Left Eye Lopez would have been 54 yesterday. Rest in peace, obviously. Lisa's number makes you feel older. Buy or sell?
Sell. Because I always thought of Lisa as older.
Right. It's Andre, right?
Yeah.
That's sad.
Because I just turned 49. So
yeah.
I have a buddy, my buddy, the bread man, Eric, will turn 50 in July. He's my closest friend that is in my group.
Right.
That turns 50 first. And so that hits me because it's like, oh man, ready or not.
Here it comes. Yep.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
when it comes to the famous people, I'm not selfish with it. I don't want all the famous people to be old. I want them to stay young sometimes. I need Andre 3000 to be like 30 years old for my whole life.
Andre 3 Stacks has been like 80 for about 5 years now.
His soul has been 65.
He's like, everybody's like, Andre, get together. Big boy, make a new album. He's like, I made a new album. I played the flute.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's true. Flute, not good.
All
All right. That's my 5 catch. What do you got?
Buy or sell number 1. Now that you've asked the question, you'll take a sell on Arch Manning throwing 40 touchdown passes in 12 games this year.
Okay, wait. You constructed that very well. I have to think it through. I'll take a sell on him getting to 40. So
You'll
I'm going to
sell him getting to 40.
Right. I'm going to sell him getting to 40. So yes, I'll buy that. And I'll say it's more like, but I'll say he gets a new record. But yeah, not quite 40.
All right. Buy or sell number 2. Oh, it's so much better when I write these things down in advance. Kids, do your homework. Be prepared. Be a good Boy Scout. You like the Longhorns to also make the College World Series. The Aggies are out, but the Longhorns, you like their pathway to get there.
Yeah, that's a buy. It feels, and I guess there would have been an argument to even make them the overall number 1 seed, but getting that overall 2 feels like the region and super region doable. Very, very workable for Texas. I do think they're headed to Omaha.
Buy or sell number 3. You think when the show is over, I should just go get enchiladas for lunch?
Buy. Absolutely. I do.
Don't make a bit out of it. Don't record it. Just do it and then come back tomorrow and report.
Yes, because if you do it on a show or in a video or whatever, like that's going to be on your mind. It's going to be part of it. Whereas if you just go, just pick your place, Los Cucos, whatever it is. Just go and think, what am I in the mood for? Chicken, beef, cheese, spinach, whatever it is, and just go, yeah, bring me that. And then, you can take a bite. And it could be like your P. Terry's experience back in the day, and you could just decide you don't want anymore and walk out. But yes, I think you should check that off your list as soon as possible.
Buy or sell number 4. It's early in this week's beginning of the French Open, but you're still keeping up with it all the way through.
It's a lowercase buy. I keep up. I watch highlights and stuff, but as far as like watching full matches, especially on the men's side, that doesn't happen. I'm not watching like full matches throughout the tournament, but I'm keeping up with, what's going on. I know Goff and Djokovic won in advance and stuff like that. Sinner won and things, but I'm not watching full matches right now. No.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. I had not seen the Coen Brothers classic, Miller's Crossing, in a long time.
Okay.
Maybe 30 years. Because it came out, I think, I don't even remember, 95 maybe? But, no, 1990. It came out the same year as Godfather 3. And I don't know that I'd seen it in 30 years. I watched it today. I think it's overrated. And the idea that it would be mentioned in the same breath with No Country for Old Men just kind of blows my mind. Buy or sell. You've just never seen Miller's Crossing.
That part is a buy. See, if you'd have done a comparison with No Country for Old Men, I've seen that, and I could just tell you, No Country for Old Men is way better. So, yeah. But I've not seen Miller's Crossing.
Because I was like, if I haven't seen this movie in 30 years,
right.
There's no way Chad saw it in the movie theater when it came out before I did. So he hadn't seen that damn movie.
Certainly not in 1990, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go to the movies and see that kind of a movie in 1990. That wasn't happening. That was not what was going on in Waxahachie at that moment. That was not.
Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what this was.
I don't even know if they showed it in Waxahachie back then.
Is there a movie that you've ever shown your daughter where you've hyped it up before you showed it to her, and then when she watched it, she was like, that is from a time and a place that I am not from, and I didn't either think it was funny or it didn't hit or connect? because that's the way I felt about this movie. I have seen so many amazing gangster movies that if you show me one that's 35 years old and it looks a little bit dated, it's hard for me not to think that.
I can't think of a good example right away, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Like, this is a nerdy version, but I got my daughter to sit through Tron at one point in the last few years. And she had that look on her face like, whoa.
Yes, a bridge too far, Dad.
Yeah, right. Like, you know what? Let me not see the sequel. I'm good. Yeah, that's
a moment in this movie, Chad. This is like 1930s gangster New York kind of a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a guy gets hit over the face with a chair that he walks into and you see coming from a mile away. And his reaction is to basically say, "Oh man, you hit me with a chair." And he just like walks away. And I just don't feel like in a serious gangster movie, that's what happens. Like, I feel like there's a little screwball in the movie where it's like a Coen Brothers dark crime caper. I don't know. It was just there are little pieces of it that made me go, that didn't work. And then I read, because I did some homework on it, that they did a Criterion did a re-release of the movie, and they took out that scene that I just mentioned. So there were some pieces of the original movie that were taken out. And I was like, you know what? My editing eye is telling me that they didn't need to be in there. So
apparently you needed to be the editor in 1990.
Criterion Collection needs to hire my ass.
There you go.
We are seeing eye to eye, baby.
You got to figure it out. Yeah, that's cool. So, okay. So that's not one you would tell me to watch. I can take that. I don't have to add that to the list, right? Miller's Crossing. I don't need to see it.
Well, if you ever want to do a Coen Brothers top 10 list, you probably need to see it.
I got you. Yeah.
The thing is, it's so hyped that I went in thinking I'm getting ready to watch No Country for Old Men or some movie of that variety. And it was like, oh no, that's not what this is.
Here's a weird count I'll do for you. If I counted up 2 lists, Coen Brothers movies and Clint Eastwood movies, which do you think I've seen more of?
Clint.
Okay.
Because I've seen Every Which Way You Can and Every Which Way But Loose probably 700 combined times.
That's fantastic if that's true. If it's that many, damn. I'll do the count and let you know. Because I don't know the answer to that. I just don't, off the top of my head, I don't know the answer.
I mean, the only way the answer is the Coen Brothers is if movies with the orangutan Clyde doesn't get to be included.
I have not seen either of those movies ever.
Oh no!
Ever.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
I know. Never seen either one.
All right, look. Do you understand the premise of the video of the movie?
I just ruined your day, I know.
Clint Eastwood plays the character Philo Beto.
Right. It's a fighting movie, right? Isn't it he's a fighter? He goes around and fights people?
Like a bare knuckle street fighter.
Yeah, he's like Kimbo Slice and he has an orangutan with him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend sings country music.
Okay.
And his mom is one of the all-time great somatic characters that have ever lived and walked the face of the earth.
Okay.
And his rival is a motorcycle gang that is kind of part Three Stooges. I'm just telling you.
No, it sounds
monkeys punching people and angry grandma. It's full of so many delightful things.
One of these days, I do need to check them off my list. I haven't avoided them on purpose, but I have avoided them when they're on regular TV. You know my policy. I can't watch that kind of crap on regular television.
I don't even think it's a movie with any cursing in it. I don't remember a curse word.
I respect Clint Eastwood enough. I am never going to see a Clint Eastwood movie for the very first time if a commercial is involved. I've got to see it. I got to see the movie. You know what I mean? Can't have it on TBS.
It hurts my heart to learn that they may have not had great animal safety practices back in the 70s when they were doing TVs and movies. Like, I don't know that Clyde got the respect and the treatment that is kind of standard protocol in 2025 back in 1975. Breaks my heart to hear that their ethics weren't as high.
Yeah.
But it's a delightful movie if you can get beyond the fact that Clyde probably had more fun making the movie than he did when he wasn't on the set.
Very nice. All right. This is probably a good example of how you and I can make a show last a little longer than maybe it needs to. Anything else?
Conversation earlier today.
Anything else we need to hit today, Catch?
Clearly, the answer should be no.
Clearly, the answer is no, whether you have enchiladas or not. I hope you have a good day. Thank y'all for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. Football with Friends premieres every day at 6 o'clock, and we'll do Outsiders tonight at 8:30. We'll get around to that rule change discussion, and we'll talk about the SEC and the Big Ten trying to control college football moving forward. SEC spring meetings rolling on. All right, y'all take care. We'll be back tomorrow for a Thursday edition of the show. Until then, we are house divided. It's Orange Bloods Live. See ya.